Now, on Sunrise and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, this abandoned grain silo was one of several fires that broke out yesterday in Wharton County. We have the cause from the El Campo Volunteer Fire Chief. And continuing coverage on those deadly fires that devastated the island of Maui last week, the President and First Lady plan to get a first-hand look at the damage on their visit to the island next week. We have more. Plus, a high school football team got a surprise visit before practice Monday. Who or what took the field? We have that straight ahead.
We're going to take a look on the outside. A beautiful view, nice sunrise coming in from Port LAVACA, looking across the nautical landing marina there in Port LAVACA, of course. Few clouds in the distance, otherwise sunny skies today. Hot temperatures, and what about the tropics? They're heating up as well. We'll give you the details coming up.
On the Green Bay Packers, that's coming up in sports.
You're watching 25 News Now Sunrise. Good morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Carolina Estrain.
I'm Trey Mining.
And today it's the 17th day of August 2023. The time is now 6:30 on our Thursday morning and it is Thrift Shop Day. Ooh, I know Russell is a big fan of thrift shops. It's like his
I love those,
favorite
yes.
thing to do. He'll go look at all the thrift shops on his day off and look for records.
Exactly. You can find bargains, put a little effort into it. You have to hit it right. You find a good bargain for a good price.
And depending on the thrift shop, there's one run by a nonprofit here in town. You can go shopping, get something really nice for a low price, and give back to the community.
Exactly. It does good for you and good for the soul, knowing you're helping people out.
That's right, Trey.
And we're going to help you out by letting you know the weather here.
Oh, dangerous temperatures.
Dangerous, I'll tell you what. And so stay inside if you can, especially in the afternoon. One more look at the nice, beautiful view, nice sunrise across LAVACA Bay. And taking a look at the temperatures currently this hour in the 70s or 80 degrees along the coast, especially warm in the low to mid 80s. Port O'Connor, for example, 84 degrees, while we're 77 degrees here in Victoria. And pretty much the same goes to the north of CUERO area, to Yoakum, 77, 78 degrees in this area here. And a little bit cooler there in Beeville, 72 degrees this hour. So it's not as warm as it could be, but it's definitely warm and humid, no doubt about it. And because of the triple digits anticipated today, both air temperature and heat index value, we have the heat advisory going into effect at 12 noon for Victoria County, counties along the coast, you see right there. And the excessive heat warning, which does include now Wharton County, and now from Hallettsville to Yoakum area, CUERO, and points to the west from there into the hill country. For heat index values here approaching 110, 115. So during the afternoon time, no matter where you are, you need to be careful out there. Reduce your outdoor activities if you can, so you won't get overheated in the afternoon, which will be a very good likelihood with temperatures that high. 80 degrees for the Crossroads area bus stops this morning. Dress cool for school, be safe out there. And coming home time, 3:30, 101 temperature, more than likely in and around the Victoria area, waiting for the bus to pick you up. Wait inside if you can, and also in the shade if you have to be outside. Drink plenty of water, find some shade, stay there until the bus gets you and takes you on home. Be safe out there. What about our rainy forecast eventually? We'll take a look coming up.
Breaking out of Beaumont this morning, authorities say 2-year-old Braylon Harris is missing. Authorities do have a suspect in his abduction. She is Georgian Randall. Randall can be seen on your screen. She was last seen driving a gray SUV. We do not have a license plate at this time. Unfortunately, a clothing description for 2-year-old Harris is not available at this time either, but we do know that Harris has short braids in his hair. He's right there on your screen. If you have any information about their whereabouts, call 911 and come to crossroadstoday.com for more information. A man is wanted out of Harris County for injury to an officer. You may have woken up to that blue alert this morning. An active search is now underway for 34-year-old Taryn Green. Green is described as a black man and was last seen wearing a gray shirt and black shorts. Authorities say he is driving a blue Ford Escape with Texas license plate number SV-J6590. You are urged to call 911 immediately if you have any information on his whereabouts. A crash involving a motorcycle and a truck sent 2 people to area hospitals last night. Authorities say both victims suffered non-life-threatening injuries and are expected to make a full recovery. The vehicles collided just before 9 o'clock in the 300 block of Sam Houston Drive. Multiple fires broke out all at once in Wharton County yesterday. It took a combined effort between Wharton and Louise fire crews to battle this blaze at an abandoned grain silo in El Campo. Authorities say they had the fire mostly contained in about an hour and a half. No one was hurt. Crews say they were battling this blaze and grass and structure fires near the area at the same time.
The cause of the fire was a handyman doing yard work around it. May have his lawnmower or something of that nature caused the fire from the outside, and it went to the inside.
Wharton County had several major fires break out that afternoon. A landowner and his neighbor helped put out a large brush fire yesterday on FM 774 in Refugio County. Authorities say the 7 area fire crews responded to the blaze, and they say it was contained in no time. The landowner helped by using his dozer to clear a path for the trucks to get to the fire, and the neighboring landowner used a maintainer to work the fire line and to create fire breaks. The White House says President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will travel to Hawaii Monday to get a first-hand look at the fire damage on Maui. The President and First Lady plan to meet with state and local leaders as well as first responders and survivors during their visit to Lahaina. They will also tour some of the areas impacted by the historic wildfires that swept across portions of the island, killing more than 100 people. The president said yesterday he is in close contact with the Hawaii governor, Josh Green, and has assured him that federal assistance will be provided to those affected. The White House says the president scheduled a visit only after talking to FEMA leaders and state leaders who said the search and recovery efforts are expected to be at a stage early next week that would allow for a presidential visit. Speaking of FEMA, members just toured Lahaina and saw the damage up close. The massive blaze destroyed much of the historic town of Lahaina. Thousands were forced to evacuate and more than 2,700 structures are destroyed. Much of Hawaii was under a red flag warning for fire risk when the wildfires broke out, but the exact cause of the blaze is still unknown. So far, 110 people have died from the devastating fire, and more are expected as searches continue. Hawaii's governor says the damage was estimated to cost $6 billion. The football team at a Tennessee high school got a very big surprise before their practice, and there weren't any picnic baskets involved. A black bear was spotted running across the field of Gatlinburg-Pittman High School on Monday. Head coach Brad Wagoner captured this video and said the bear had run down from the home stands onto the field and then into the visitor stands. After a few minutes, it made its way out of the stadium. Wagoner said the team has seen bears during the morning time, but never really during the school day before. Here are some of the top headlines you can read in the Port Lavaca Wave. The Calhoun County ISD has called for a bond meeting to discuss a $25 million bond issue for several maintenance projects in the district. They're also offering free senior passes for sporting events in Calhoun County. And the South Texas Strutters are hosting a Meet the Teacher Night on August 28th at the Calhoun County YMCA. You can read these stories and more at theportlavacawave.com. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. The time is now 6:38 on your Thursday morning. Here's a look at what's coming up on 25 News Now Sunrise. 3 people have died in Connecticut and New York from a rare flesh-eating bacteria.
ABC's M. Wynn in Washington. Former President Donald Trump is looking at a jam-packed court schedule as he seeks a new term in the White House. The details coming up.
And yesterday was one of the hottest days ever in Victoria. 108 was the daytime high yesterday. 109 is the all-time hottest day high. 1 degree off of that. Getting close to that again today, with the temperatures definitely in the triple digits for us here. Look at the rainfall. We're getting near 5 inches under normal and keep building on that number. But the rain chances are pretty good the first of next week. We'll talk about that coming up in your forecast. And good morning. It's 20 minutes away from the 7 a.m. hour. And we've been watching the Gulf of Mexico. Not anything currently out there really to talk about, but the potential is there. A hurricane center thinks that something's going to develop in this area here. Gave about a 20% chance of developing over the next 24 hours or so. Even if it doesn't develop, we hopefully bring some good rains for our region here. And once again, we're looking at this is the sea surface temperature. I'm going to zoom on out and include all the tropical areas. With the darker red colors and darker and deeper purple and red colors you see, that's the warmer the water temperature. Especially warm near 90 degrees for the majority of the Gulf of Mexico. So that's definitely a plus for getting something going out here. But one thing that may have to hinder it though is a continued southern and Saharan dust coming in from the south, coming in with a lot of dry air as well in the upper levels of the atmosphere along with that dust. So that inhibits development. But if it does develop or does not develop, looks like it'll bring us some good rain chances coming up by the first part of next week, which is something we need around here. And we'll talk about that, percentages, and we're thinking at this time, and your full forecast a little bit later on this half hour. Carolina?
Thank you, Trey. A Texas rivalry is being placed on hold in the coming years. Sports director Gino Perez has why in sports.
At a crossroads, the Texas Longhorns and Texas A&M Aggies rivalry will be back in 2024. But another rivalry is in question in the next few years. The rivalry, known as the Battle for the Iron Skillet, will be put on a, quote, pause following the 2025 season. The reason for the hiatus is the TCU athletic director said he wanted more home games. The first meeting between the two started in 1915, and the two have battled it out on the gridiron for over 100 years. The Horned Frogs are ranked number 17 in the nation, and the two will play in September at TCU on the 23rd. The Green Bay Packers and the New England Patriots are finishing up a joint practice that they had this week, and there was a Bailey Zappi sighting. The former Victoria East quarterback did not get as much work in as he would have hoped. Instead, former Alabama quarterback Mac Jones took the snaps in the 2-hour-plus session. Former Dallas Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott was in attendance, and he had a very limited role as well in the scrimmage. That's your 25 Sports Now.
Thank you, All right, we want to invite y'all to experience our digital streaming service, Crossroads Today Plus. You can find it on your connected TV through Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and on your cell phone. Just search Crossroads Today Plus. Now to the latest in Donald Trump's fourth indictment out of Georgia. The Fulton County District Attorney officially requesting the judge overseeing the 2020 election fraud case set a trial date in March in the midst of the 2024 presidential primaries.
This morning, all eyes on Georgia, where former President Donald Trump and 18 alleged co-conspirators have less than 10 days to turn themselves in to face charges in Georgia after a grand jury indicted them for allegedly playing a role in a criminal enterprise seeking to overturn the 2020 election results.
Because he was seeking to obstruct the counting of electoral college votes, that's enough to go ahead and turn that into a criminal act.
Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis revealing she wants arraignments to take place in 3 weeks with a trial start date of March 4th, one day before Super Tuesday. If granted by the judge, the 2024 Republican frontrunner is looking at a jam-packed court schedule as he heads into the primaries. In the separate federal election interference case against Trump, the special counsel is asking for trial to start January 2nd. And for Trump's case in New York over hush money payments, trial is already scheduled for March 25th. Trump's legal team is likely to follow in the footsteps of his former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and try to move his Georgia case to federal court.
Federal removal is a very smart strategy. It's the first thing I do. Gets you a better jury pool. Gets you likely friendlier judges.
In Georgia, we're expecting unprecedented transparency. Unlike Trump's previous 3 indictments, cameras will be allowed in court and each defendant can be expected to be fingerprinted and photographed for a mugshot. Rudy Giuliani, who's facing 13 criminal counts in part for falsely accusing poll workers of stealing ballots, says he's preparing to turn himself in.
Well, I'll pick a day next week, try to work out the conditions of bail.
Trump is expected to address the Georgia case during a press conference Monday. He has denied any wrongdoing, calling all investigations politically motivated. Emwin, ABC News, Washington.
That leads us to your viewer poll. You can scan the QR code on your screen to take part. We ask you, should Trump still run for president? Yes or no? We want to hear from you. Let's take a look. 67% of you, that's a little bit down from the last half hour, say yes, and 33% of you say no. Come to crosswordstoday.com/vote to take part in our viewer polls. A 77-year-old El Campo drug dealer is on his way to state prison to start his life sentence. This comes after a warrant was issued for his arrest because he failed to show up for the second day of his trial on August 2nd. That's a report from the Hallettsville Tribune-Herald. Lawrence Harold was taken into custody last Friday after he was stopped by Texas DPS on Interstate 10 near Flatonia. Authorities say he surrendered without incident. Harold was transported to the Wharton County Jail Monday, where he is waiting to be transferred to state prison. Here are some of the top headlines you can read in the CUERO Record. Mount Bethany Baptist prepares to celebrate its 140th anniversary, plus the CUERO Tree Board will hold a historic tree ceremony. You can read these stories and more at DeWittCountyToday.com. The time is now 6:46 on your Thursday morning. Still to come. In Tennessee, 4 officers and a hostage were hurt in a shootout after a standoff in Clarksville Tuesday.
Good morning. It's 10 minutes away from the 7 a.m. hour. Let's take a look at the 7-day future rainfall totals. Nothing today. Let's step out of the way so you can see the date here. Nothing on Friday. Saturday pretty much dry as well. Sunday as well. As looking by Monday, here comes a select moisture coming off the Gulf of Mexico, courtesy of a tropical wave. And it still remains to be seen what will become of that, whether it become a developed storm or not. But regardless, they're bringing some rainfall lasting through Tuesday, even into Wednesday of next week. So at least several inches more than likely could catch up on the rainfall, which will be beneficial to us next week. Of course, we'll keep watching the system as it continues to make its way in toward our area. 104 for the daytime high today, mostly sunny skies and hot, no rain today. Stay cool, everybody. Overnight lows will be in the 70s, mostly clear skies. And for your day tomorrow, like today, triple-digit heat index value, and keeping it on the hot side, keeping the temperatures dry and hot right on through the weekend. Here's the rain chances coming in from the Gulf, starting Monday, lasting through Wednesday.
3 people have died in Connecticut and New York from a rare flesh-eating bacteria. Authorities say 2 people in Connecticut became infected and died after swimming in 2 separate locations on Long Island Sound. The virus was also detected in a person who died in Long Island, New York. Leaders are still investigating to determine if that person contracted the bacteria in New York waters or elsewhere. Vibrio vulnificus bacteria lives in warm, salty, or brackish water and comes from the same family as the bacteria that causes cholera. People with an open wound, such as a cut or scrape, a recent piercing, or a new tattoo are more likely to contract the bacteria. Doctors say it's important to seek treatment quickly if you develop a skin infection after possible exposure. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says Vibrio vulnificus bacteria causes an estimated 80,000 illnesses and 100 deaths in the country every year. The world now has about 3.5 million fewer millionaires, and it's not the chocolates. In its annual global wealth report, Credit Suisse and UBS reported the grand total of all the private wealth in the world last year was more than $454 trillion. The 2.4% drop was due to climbing interest rates and high inflation rates. The report says that left just about 60 million millionaires. The U.S. alone lost nearly 2 million millionaires. The report says the top 1% of households still hold a staggering 44.5% of all global wealth. That's down just slightly from 45.6% in 2021. Still to come on Sunrise News to know before you go. A man who barricaded himself in an apartment Wednesday night in Florida after shooting a bondsman has died. Breaking out of Beaumont this morning, authorities say 2-year-old Braylon Harris is missing. Authorities do have a suspect in his abduction. She is Georgian Randall. Randall can be seen on your screen. She was last seen, or rather on an article on our website. This is the child in question, the child that's missing. The suspect was last seen driving a gray SUV. We do not have a license plate number at this time. Unfortunately, a clothing description for the 2-year-old child is not available at this time either, but he is on your screen. But what we do know is that Harris has short braids in his hair. If you have any information on their whereabouts, call 911. The National Weather Service issues excessive heat warnings for 3 area counties, DeWitt, LAVACA, and Wharton counties under excessive heat warnings from noon until 9 o'clock tonight. The National Weather Service says heat index values are up to 110 degrees are expected. In Tennessee, 4 officers and a hostage were hurt in a shootout after a standoff in Clarksville Tuesday. 2 suspects were killed. It happened when police attempted to execute arrest warrants for 2 men accused of multiple aggravated burglaries. That's when police say the men barricaded themselves inside an apartment with a hostage. After hours of failed negotiations, officers say they broke in and the men started shooting. 31-year-old Brandon Green and 33-year-old Leonard Green were shot and killed. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is reporting that the men were siblings. 4 officers and the hostage sustained non-life-threatening injuries. The incident is under investigation. A man who barricaded himself in an apartment Wednesday night in Florida after shooting a bondsman has died. Authorities say it happened shortly before 7 p.m. at an apartment building in Hillsborough County. A bondsman requested help serving a felony warrant for trafficking fentanyl. The bondsman approached the suspect but took on gunfire and was grazed in the elbow by a bullet as he quickly took cover. Residents in nearby apartments were evacuated. Authorities were able to make entry into the apartment, and the person who was believed to be wanted for the warrant was found dead of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. That person's name is not released. An inmate is back in custody hours after he escaped a prison transport van in Maryland Wednesday morning. Randy Morris, arrested by police in Annapolis Junction following a bizarre run-in with a local news crew. Morris reportedly approached the news team, identified himself as Morris, and then took off. Police tracked him down about an hour later in a wooded area. The 38-year-old man was part of a group of 5 prisoners being transported to a medical appointment. He managed to escape the van when it stopped in traffic. How he was able to escape is still under investigation. Taxpayers in Shiner will pay over $500 less on average than they did last year. The Shiner Gazette reports the school board there approved a proposed tax rate of just over 74 cents per $100 valuation. This comes after a sharp rise in appraisal values in Shiner. Total appraised values in Shiner ISD jumped $300 million in 1 year to $1.4 billion. A proposed budget hearing set for August 30th. All right, let's go ahead and get a look at our forecast with First Warn Storm Team Meteorologist Trey Mining. Trey, it's still hurricane season, a lot of hurricane activity. Maybe it's time to fill those Culligan jugs.
It would be a good idea to, even though we're rather quiet on the tropical front now. Of course, we're in the prime time hurricane season, so it's always pays to be prepared because you don't know when a storm may pop up relatively quickly. 104 will be the daytime high today, mostly sunny skies and hot. Be careful out there, be careful in the heat. Overnight lows in the 70s, 76 degrees in Victoria. And for your day tomorrow, 103 likely, triple-digit heat index value by the afternoon time today, tomorrow, and the foreseeable future. But what's going on here after the weekend? Some tropical moisture coming in from the Gulf. Give us a good rain chances, good coverages too. 50% coming up by your Tuesday and Wednesday. Highs in the 90s by then. But in the meantime, dealing with hot temperatures today. 104 likely in the Crossroads area. Be careful out there and make it a great day and stay safe and cool. Back to you, Carolina.
Thank you, Trey, and thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today, and join James, Don, Matt, Karina, and Gino today for 25 News Now at 5, 6, and 10.